Hello, people of the internet, and welcome to the Zcast, Generation Z's podcast. I am Javert, and I will be your host for this week's episode. And alongside me this week are Dacidradia.
Hello.
And joining us for the first time on the Zcast, Fid.
Hey!
If you don't know what Generation Z is an online forum dedicated to all things nerd culture. You can find us online at generationz.jcink.net. That's generationz.jcink.net. Now, we're going to start off this week's episode of the podcast by going over to Fid, who is joining us for the first time, as I mentioned. We'd like to, when we have a new host, just ask him, because we are a nerd culture forum, what makes you a nerd, and why would you consider yourself a nerd? So, Fid, take it away.
Why would I consider myself a nerd? I don't really know. I really don't have a good answer for that one. I guess stereotypically wise is gaming, retro gaming specifically. Studying IT, like software development right now. And being a wrestling fan, I guess is a common excuse. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we've got quite a few of those on the board.
Yeah, wrestling really seems to be pretty popular, especially I think both admins like it, and
yeah,
it's surprising me because
Takio.
Takio's a decent fan of it. I've never really gotten into wrestling myself. Not that it's a bad thing, wrestling's fine. It's just not something I follow that closely.
Yeah, I've been following it since the early 90s, so...
To me, it's one of the things where people say, oh, that's so fake, why would you follow that? Well, same reason you would follow a TV show. That's all fake, too.
Exactly.
It might be scripted, but
yeah,
it's still entertainment. That's what it's meant for. So,
yeah.
I can understand why people are fans of it. It's not my cup of tea necessarily.
Yeah, I don't look at it as a legitimate sport, like football, basketball, stuff like that. I just look at it as like a television show. It's a male soap opera. That's exactly what it is.
Basically. Yeah, I'm with Javert. I never really got that much into it. Just, it was real popular when I was younger with a lot of my peers, and it just never really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, the late 90s, it was huge. I remember in school, everybody was talking about it.
Yeah.
All right, well, now we got that out of the way. Fid has given us a reason why he believes he's a nerd and why he fits in the forum, I guess. So we're going to move on to our first discussion question of this week's episode. And the way this is going to work, I'm just going to ask a question and we're going to talk about different answers. In true nerd culture fashion, we're going to talk about some TV series and movies. Essentially, the question is, what is a book, TV series, or movie that you wish had a sequel, a spin-off, a remake, new episodes, anything like that? What is a show, book, or movie that you wish had one of those?
Are we going to discount the obvious, like Firefly?
Well, yeah, Firefly is most nerds' go-to answer for that. So we're going to, I don't want to say discount the obvious, but just
acknowledge it.
Acknowledge that, hey, that would be our answer, but what's something a little more off the grid, something that maybe other people don't know much about?
Right.
So...
Going back what we used to be the 90s form, I'll go with Celebrity Deathmatch.
Oh, Celebrity Deathmatch.
I want to see new episodes. I really do.
See, I would say BattleBots, but we got that.
We did get that. We do have BattleBots back now, and that's a very good thing. So
yeah.
For me, actually, I have a pretty good answer that I just thought of when he mentioned Celebrity Deathmatch. I don't know why this sparked something in my brain, but it made me think of another show that I'd love to see be brought back, and that's American Gladiators.
Oh, God, I forgot all about that.
I had forgot about it, too, until earlier this week when, I don't know why, something sparked in my brain and I thought about American Gladiators, and then, again, it left my mind, and now I just thought about it when you brought up Celebrity Deathmatch there, which, they really aren't that similar at all, but just American Gladiators sparked in my mind there, and it's that show, I used to watch that all the time, especially during the summers when I had it off during school. Like, it would be on, I think, Spike TV, I think is what it was on. Like, it'd marathon in the afternoon sometimes, and I'd just watch, 3 episodes in a row each day. It's a really cool idea. I loved American Gladiators. It's basically an obstacle course, and with added obstacles being people that are trying to stop you from completing it.
Yeah, kind of like Ninja Warrior, just with more fighting.
Exactly. Which is surprising, because the show's called Ninja Warrior. But
Uh, this is tough because like I can think of several book series or TV series that I'd love to see come back. Like MST3K comes to mind because it was so big. But the thing is, it wouldn't be the same without Joel. I mean, it wasn't the same without Joel Hudson after he left the show. So you would have to bring him back for it, and I don't know that he would do it since he's so busy with everything else now.
And just to clear, MS3TK, that's...
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes, that's correct. That's just one of the things that I wanted to get clarification there.
Yeah, sorry, I abbreviated out of habit.
Well, that's the same thing. It's like us calling Generation Z GZ. Like some people,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you get into the habit of calling something shorthand, and it's like, what's the thing that I always use? There's certain shows that I just always use the abbreviated version of it. Like MMPR, for example.
Yeah.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but I always call it...
Whenever we talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we just say S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, pretty much, just S.H.I.E.L.D. So.
I mean, like, and the crazy thing is there's a lot of things that, like, I would like more of as a fan, but at the same time, you don't want more of because it was ended very well. But that's a whole other discussion. We could let's table that for next time.
Yeah, that's another one of those discussions where, as a fan, it's like I want more, but it ended so perfectly that I don't want more necessarily.
Yeah.
That kind of how I feel about the Newsroom on HBO. I really did think it had a good finale.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people did not like the way it ended, but I thought it ended pretty well, especially considering what they were doing with season 3.
Yeah.
But all things considered, we got 26 episodes of that show. 3 seasons worth, but it's only 26 episodes long. I would have loved to have seen that show go on for years, but I know Aaron Sorkin can't write those types of episodes day in and day out without it being a major pain, and it'd be really tough to do.
Well, it's the same way I feel about the Wheel of Time series. The original author is no longer with us, so his successor was handpicked to finish it. And yes, I would love more stories in that universe, but at the same time, the ending was so perfect and finished the story so well. I don't want it tarnished.
All I know is somebody who works in a bookstore. I can't tell you a bunch of stuff that I want more of, but I can tell you one series I want less of, and that's the 50 Shades of Grey series.
Well, I think we can all agree on that.
The new book came out, and we sold 170 copies in like 8 days. And I'm like, really? That it just... And
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either.
I'm just disappointed.
I'm more disappointed because it's literally the same book that the first book was, just from another person's perspective. I'm like, and yet we can still sell 170 copies in 3 days, which is more than almost any other book.
It's the exact same thing that the last Twilight book was going to be until it got leaked and she took her toys and went home. See, and stuff like that sells millions of copies, and most people haven't even heard of people like Brandon Sanderson.
That's the disappointing thing. Is there are some really good books out there and really good TV series too that most people never hear of until it's too late, or they don't pick up steam.
Firefly.
Firefly being the classic example, of course.
We're never gonna let that go.
Most people are never gonna let that go either. So. So all right. Well, I believe that's enough for that. So we're gonna move on to actual nerdy news now. There's not a lot of nerdy news to discuss here. I know, Das, you wanted to talk about E3, right?
Yeah, there were a couple of big things at E3 this year. Sony announced The Last Guardian, Shenmue 3 being on Kickstarter, and a Final Fantasy VII remake, which are 3 things that most people thought would never happen. So that was a huge deal. The Xbox conference announced backwards compatibility for the Xbox One, which was a massive deal. It'll hit this December, I believe. So be on the lookout for that. I'm sure we'll probably have more info on it when it happens. Nintendo announced a few new titles, which were, somewhat exciting, but also just kind of par for the course. The most interesting thing that happened that weekend was Smash Brothers DLC came out the day before E3 started. And it built so much tension because we're like, wait, if they gave us these surprises before E3 even starts, what were they sitting on? And then it wasn't as impressive as we thought. Because we got Lucas from Super Smash Bros. Brawl back, Roy from Super Smash Bros. Melee back, and Ryu from Street Fighter into Super Smash Bros., which was really cool. He's a really fun character to play.
I'd imagine Ryu would be a fun character to play because he's fun to play in Street Fighter.
Yeah, and some of the Street Fighter inputs work, like the input for the Hadouken, the input for the Shoryuken, the input for one of the special Hadoukens works, and then he's got 2 different final smashes. One's a big Hadouken, one's the Shin Shoryuken.
But going back to what you were just talking about there, though, am I the only one here who thinks it's a bad idea to release new DLC for a conference or for a game the day before a conference?
Yeah,
Because now you have people who want to play the game and don't want to go to the conference after they were really pumped for it because they want to play the DLC.
Yeah, and then you have the people, like me and my roommate that, we were sitting here like, they dropped this before the conference. What are they sitting on? And it's like, oh, new Star Fox, new Metroid, new Zelda, but they were all kind of,
expected.
They were expected, and like the Star Fox we already knew about. The Metroid doesn't have Samus, and the Zelda is a multiplayer game in the spirit of Four Swords. So, it wasn't as exciting as we thought it was going to be, but, overall, I think it was very solid E3 and one of the best we've seen for the past few years.
Well, that's always good news. I mean, E3 always brings out some news about video games and things like that. So It's always good to get new news out of that, even if it's not always that exciting.
Yeah.
Like you said, this year it was a little underwhelming after what they'd released beforehand.
Right, but I mean, Sony and Microsoft made up for it because Microsoft again gave us backwards compatibility. They showed off the new Tomb Raider, the new Gears of War, Halo 5, and then the new controller they have that's got extra paddles on the back and a couple of new features. And then, of course, Sony's press conference just blew everyone out of the water because, like I said, no one thought we'd get those games.
Alrighty, and I guess we actually skipped over what should have been our lead nerdy news story this week, which I think Das knows exactly what I'm talking about now. Speaking about video games, we kind of got on this subject here. Generation Z, our nerd culture forum, is hosting a posting contest this week, in which the winner, or not this week, but it's going to be for this next month, in which the winner, randomly selected from a pool, will win a copy of Arkham Knight for either the Xbox 360 or Xbox One, I should say, or the PS4, whichever you would prefer to get. The way it works is every 5 posts you put, you get 1 entry into the contest, along with if you share a specific hashtag on Twitter or on Facebook, then you will also receive an entry in that as well. We're hoping that this is going to drum up some new interest in the forum, generate some activity. Really, I think it's a great idea to give away a copy of the game. I mean, it's quite a bit of money for the admins to take on, but at the same time, I mean, if it's going to jump out activity, it might be worth it, especially because we've already gotten a few new members into the forum that are really, I mean, a lot of them have turned out pretty well.
Yeah, and it's, definitely it's the biggest contest we've ever done. And, I think all 3 of us have been there long enough to say that with confidence.
Right.
Definitely the biggest contest in Generation Z's history. It's even stated that by the admins. So I think it's a great idea for the forum. If you are watching this on YouTube and you have not joined Generation Z already, this might be a great incentive for you to join the forum, which once again you can find online at generationz.jcinc.net. And the
cheap plug.
Yeah.
That's what we do on this.
That's the entire point of this podcast, is to plug the forum like crazy.
And what we can do is we can even put a link to the contest thread in the description of the video, since we talked about it.
We absolutely can do that. Well, I can absolutely do that if I can figure it out. I was trying to tweet out the link actually to the contest, and I kept copying the wrong link. I actually linked it directly to somebody's post. Like I think it was Roly Poly Broly's post. And I tweeted that link out, and I clicked the link. I'm like, oops.
Whoops.
Not what I meant to do.
Doesn't count.
So then I had to go back and fix that. But yeah, we'll figure it out. But I'm sure if you're watching this video and you're not already a member of Generation Z, then you should join.
Yeah, because, I mean, you could win a game and be a part of an awesome community, which in my mind, is worth even more.
Exactly. All right. Well, moving on. We don't have a lot of other nerdy news this week. Granted, we have a lot that we could talk about, considering we've been off for almost a month. We could go back to a lot of news that we've skipped over. But a lot of that's outdated news that if you're watching this, you've known about for months and things like that. The only two real big stories that I think broke this last week, and one of them's not as big as the other one. The biggest one being Tom Holland has been cast as Peter Parker in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's a 19-year-old British actor. He's going to be portraying the next Spider-Man. I find it funny that for the second straight time, a Brit will be playing Spider-Man.
Really? I didn't know Andrew Garfield was British.
Andrew Garfield is very British. If you watch him and if you hear him in an interview, it amazes me how different his voice is from the Peter Parker voice that he uses. It's
interesting.
Very different. But yeah, Andrew Garfield was British. But the nice thing about what they're doing with Tom Holland is he's actually 19 years old. So he could be Spider-Man for perceivably the next 15, 20 years.
Right. Which, is honestly what we're hoping to see is a longer run of, the character instead of the quick reboots we've been getting.
And also, just to confirm, Kevin, I believe it's Feige, however it's pronounced, the guy who runs the Marvel Cinematic Universe, basically has stated that though it will be the introduction of Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it will not be another origin story. So we won't be seeing Uncle Ben shot for a third time.
Well, that's a relief.
Right.
I like how when they were talking about this, a lot of people said, "Sorry, Uncle Ben, you're gonna have to die again." But no, they're just gonna skip over that. It sounds like.
Yeah. See, the thing that baffled me about the whole casting was so many people were outraged that they didn't choose Miles Morales to be Spider-Man for the cinematic universe, and my thought there is you can't do Spider-Man's origin without Peter Parker because he is the original Spider-Man. Miles Morales takes over when Peter Parker dies.
It'd be like starting a Batman series with Terry, whatever his name is. I can't think of what it is from Batman Beyond. I cannot think of his last name. All I know is he was voiced by Will Friedle. Which was awesome. But yeah.
I was thinking Dick Grayson, who takes over for Batman twice.
Well, that one too. Dick Grayson does that too. I was thinking more Batman Beyond without Bruce Wayne.
Very good.
Batman Beyond is awesome, but that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, because we could go off on Batman for days.
We easily could here, and that's part of why we're a Nerd Culture Forum.
Yeah. Although speaking of things we could go on for days with, and the cinematic universe, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3. So excited.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3 has announced that it will be featuring the Secret Warriors, which is a group of heroes in the comics led by Daisy Johnson, who's Quake, who in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is also Skye. So it'll be a cool idea, and it was hinted at in the season finale, because it's actually given codename Caterpillar in the comics. And if you go back and see an Easter egg from the Season 2 finale, Agent Coulson hands Skye a file that has the word Caterpillar on it.
Yeah, and he tells her that it's going to be her team, etc., etc. Background for those of you that watch the Zcast regularly, I hadn't seen the finale on the last Zcast. I have since watched it, and I was amazed, and I love the show.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a really good show. I still don't understand why so many people didn't like it at the beginning. But we've had this discussion many times, I believe. If you follow the Zcast regularly, you don't need us to go on this rant again. It'd be like us going on another rant about how bad Megaforce messed up. We don't need to do that. We've done that. We've covered that.
No, we need to rant about how good Dino Charge is.
Dino Charge is really good, but it's just it's in the hiatus right now. So
we'll talk about it when it comes back. But yeah, I'm excited for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, especially since we're getting even deeper into the lore, because this is something I haven't even come across, and I'm fairly knowledgeable about a lot of the comic stuff, but just without having read a lot of the comics, which is why I didn't come across some of this stuff.
So I'm not a huge fan of what the direction they're going with it. I'm not disliking it necessarily, but I'm not super excited the way you are. Simply because I think that thus far in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I've actually preferred the more grounded aspects of it. Like during the second half of Season 2, I actually preferred the S.H.I.E.L.D. versus S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff to the Inhuman stuff. I was in the minority, apparently. most people preferred the Inhuman storyline, from what I could tell. But I've always
See,
liked,
I'm with you. I liked the Shield versus Shield
I-
because
it
two
was
shields.
it was really rather interesting, I thought. But I preferred the more grounded aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mm.
Like, even though I liked the Thor movies, both of them, but I preferred the first one to the second one, probably because the first one was set in our world and was more grounded, with more dealing with him without his powers. And same thing with like Iron Man was more grounded. Even Captain America to an extent was more grounded than some of its next ones.
Right.
Like Winter Soldier was probably the most grounded of all the movies in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, and
And it was one of the most amazing.
it was amazing. And don't get me wrong, I still like Guardians and Thor and all those different movies, and I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will do fine in Season 3, but it's just not something that's getting me super excited that they're adding more powered characters to the show.
Right. See, I personally was a huge fan of the original Thor movie, but that's because it was directed by Kenneth Branagh, and I'm a massive Kenneth Branagh fanboy. So, like, anytime I see his name on something, I get excited. But I'm excited for seeing where they go with this. I'm also excited to see, how the movies are developing, because Infinity War is something I've always wanted to get into, and now we're getting it. It's just, I do think I think you mentioned this in one of the posts that they moved to Infinity War a little fast, or Civil War is what you said.
I think they jumped to Civil War a little early in the entire thing, and Infinity War too, for that matter. I feel like, I mean, granted, fast is a relative term because we're 15 movies in or something like that now, or I think we're 11 movies in with Ultron, and Civil War will be 13 because Ant-Man comes out still later this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like super early, but at the same time, it's like I felt like they could have established the universe even more so before jumping to Civil War or Infinity War.
Well, I think it mostly comes down to a matter of perspective, where you and I are looking long game, where this could run for 20, 30 years if they do it right, whereas they're thinking we may only have a 15-year window to do this. Let's get what we want to get done. So I think that is a matter of perspective, why we see it probably differently from the way they do.
It's definitely a business, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And another bit of nerdy news that, granted, this is minor, and we aren't going to be able to talk much about this because I don't doubt either of you have probably even seen it, but Star Wars Rebels actually had its Season 2 debut about earlier this month, and Season 1 ended really well, and I actually can appreciate Season 2 a little bit more now that I've been watching Clone Wars. They've added a character from the Clone Wars named Ahsoka Tano, who was Anakin Skywalker's Padawan in the Clone Wars series.
Okay.
I did not know who she was when she was introduced at the end of Season 1, having never have seen the Clone Wars. Now that I've gone back and watched it, I'm like, oh, that's who that is.
Yeah,
But the reason I'm excited for Season 2 of Rebels is because we're finally getting Darth Vader in his prime. And yes, it's a cartoon. Yes, it is kind of more aimed at children, as they say. But
those Power Rangers.
yeah, so is a lot of stuff that I enjoy. But it's showing Vader in his prime, showing Vader at the height of being a Jedi hunter, being a powerful Force user. Some people might have thought without having seen between what happened at the end of Episode 3 to what happens in A New Hope, we aren't quite sure what happened. Is Vader actually more powerful when he was Anakin Skywalker, or is he actually now more powerful now that he is Darth Vader?
Right.
You're kind of getting that sense here that, yeah, he's pretty damn powerful as Darth Vader here, especially in Season 2. So, I'm excited to see what this show does. Granted, it's only had like the one episode. It was an hour-long debut for Season 2, and now they're not going to return till September, so so it's more of a tease of the next season than an actual start to the season. But I'm excited for it. I've really been enjoying the show. I've enjoyed it since the beginning. And I kind of feel like they may have backed themselves into a corner, though, with the show. Because two of the main characters, one of them is a Jedi and one of them is training to be a Jedi. Those characters kind of have to die before the end of the series, because otherwise, why are they not referenced in the original Star Wars movie?
Well, okay. Here's my nerd cred for the day. Like, according to the expanded universe, which is no longer canon, there were some Jedi that were still around. Just they were so hidden or had abandoned the Force or lost their minds or whatever. So they don't necessarily have to die, but they won't be active anymore.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, because they've had at least partially reached out to Yoda, I believe, in the series, and Obi-Wan had reached out to them. So, if Obi-Wan and Yoda know that these two people exist,
Yeah,
that kind of makes it more difficult to tie into the original canon.
Yeah, it's a classic problem where you know what's going to happen. Like, for example, the Darth Bane books, the ones that take place during Darth Bane's time as a Sith Lord. You know he's going to win the big fight at the end of the second book because he goes on to continue the Sith Order. So it's this big three. I think it's like a 3-on-2 fight, and he's going to win because he continues on.
Well, that's part of the problem I have with the Clone Wars series that I'm watching right now.
Mhm.
Is I know that no character that appears in Episode 3 is in any sort of real danger.
Yeah.
And I also know that any character that appears in Rebels, like Ahsoka, is in no real danger because they're still alive later on in the series. So they can't actually die at that point.
So they will have to be very careful.
That is part of the problem with prequels.
Yeah. It does back you into a corner in a lot of ways.
I feel like we've been talking, and Fid, you've just been sitting there listening. Do you have anything to add at all?
Yeah, I really
Not
don't, because I haven't really been paying attention to the Star Wars animated series and stuff like that. So
Well, that's fine. I just feel like we've been talking so much, and you've just kind of been sitting there chilling, like, what am I doing here?
Relaxing.
Just kind of relaxing here. Well, I think you're going to be able to participate a little bit more in this next segment that we're going to do. This next segment that we're moving on to at this stage, unless anybody has any more nerdy news to talk about this week.
No, not really.
This next segment that we're going to do is a segment that we like to call here, Whose Z Is It Anyway? Essentially, what we're doing is we're taking scenes from a hat from Whose Line Is It Anyway and doing them live for you here on the Zcast. So, we're going to start off with signs that your coworker needs more sleep.
It's tougher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it is hard to think of things.
It is hard to think of things. Okay. Why are you pouring coffee on your computer? I'm trying to install Java.
Nice. Bill, that's not the creamer, that's the salt.
I guess from I could use a personal experience of my own. So tired that I blew up a panel, a security system panel. I crossed the wires and I got a nice little shock. That woke me up. That woke me up for sure.
That woke you up.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Why are you using Internet Explorer?
Nice.
Well, that one was actually pretty tough. I thought that'd be a little bit easier, but that one was not very easy. So, politically correct redos of famous lines.
Is this safe to say that I'm offended by that as a joke? As all the light that's been going on?
Yeah. Well, if we're going, I mean, it's politically correct, so. One nation, under Canada, with liberty and justice for all.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
Ask if the Force would like to participate, Luke.
See, the thing is, I'm on a Rocky Horror Cast. We don't really do politically correct.
a gun owner, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's politically correct is tough to do, especially when you don't normally do politically correct stuff. So, how about bad times to play, good cop, bad cop?
And porn.
When a barista messes up your order.
In the classroom, have two teachers.
Oh God, I've had people try that.
No.
It doesn't work.
Now,
Yeah.
2 plus 2 equals... You know what damn well what 2 plus 2 equals. Now answer the damn question.
Takes me back to high school.
Takes me back to elementary school.
What is some other...
See, all the stuff I'm thinking of is situations you'd actually use it in.
Bad sentences to end with, ladies.
So is your sister home?
There's a Dimitri Martin bit about this. Thanks for coming out to my show, ladies.
You should all join Generation Z, ladies.
Ladies.
There was a good Dimitri Martin bit about that.
Anything you say, if you were add the word ladies, it sounds like you're a creep. I love Dimitri Martin.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll do a couple more here, trying to move on at least.
Okay.
Worst times to use the comeback. I know you are, but what am I?
Anytime after the age of 12.
Very true.
John, I need to see you in my office really quickly. Some of your coworkers seem to be complaining that you're a bit of a slacker.
That one's lame. No, that one's worse. It's not good.
It's really tough to do this with only 3 people. We need a couple other people. Like, we need to get Fluffy back here eventually.
We need Fluffy. Fluffy, get well.
Yeah. Shout out to Fluffy. Get well soon, man.
Somebody needs to get a hold of Bucky, but then this may be too vulgar.
Adding Bucky to a Zcast just sounds like a terrible, terrible idea.
But it sounds glorious at the same time.
Exactly.
We miss you, Bucky.
We do miss you, Bucky.
We've mentioned that on 90% of the Zcast.
Oh, this is my first one, so I got an excuse.
Alrighty. I'm trying to see if I have any other ones that we can go really quickly. Alright, well, I think we'll conclude with this one.
Alright.
Worst ways to tell your child that he's adopted.
Bluntly, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, somebody in this room used to be an orphan. Guess who it is?
Damn it, you got paint all over my black shirt. Speaking of things that are black. So what do you want for dinner tonight? Egg rolls? Oh, speaking of things that are Chinese. I can't believe I spent money on you. Oh, wait. Crap.
Too soon.
Trying to come up with one for the milk bottle left on the doorstep, but I got nothing. There's a solid one there. I just can't phrase it.
I don't have anything. Let's see what I have. Well, you can take your kid to go get a puppy, and then when the kid says, "Oh, I can't pick. They're so hard to choose," be like, "Yep, I know the feeling. I had the same thing when I picked you."
It's hilarious.
Well, I guess we're gonna call it on Who's the Is It Anyway for today then.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much out of material.
Yeah, we had a couple good ones in this week.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this is a sign of things to come. Hopefully, we will have a return to semi-regular podcast for you here this week, or not coming up here in the future. Unfortunately, just our schedules and the way things have worked out, a lot of us don't have the availability that we need to really be recording podcasts on a regular basis, especially with unforeseen circumstances with happening with people like Fluffy having to go have surgery. Once again, get well soon, buddy.
Or Tom being on tour.
Well, that's not unforeseen.
That's not unforeseen, but that's definitely conflicting with our availability.
Yes, very true. Tom not having time to record makes it tough.
Just to go live his dream.
Yeah, how dare he go live his dream instead of spend time on the internet talking to us?
Seriously, though, it's awesome that he got to do that. So
it is awesome. For those of you who, once again, aren't members of Generation Z, you can find us online at generationz.jcink.net. Once again, I was your host this week. I am Javert on the website. I'm one of the moderators in the forum, and if you have any questions about the forum, you can always shoot me a message and ask me about it. Joining me this week again, once again, we're Dathadradian.
Goodbye.
And Fid.
Adios.
All right, this has been the Zcast for this week, and come on and check out the forum. Win a copy of Arkham Knight. Peace out.
Goodbye, everybody.